Good morning, everyone. We'll just focus in a little bit. So, we've been focusing on the light, huh? And this transmission of the light within us, as us, between us. And then we've been having, people have been articulating their experience of this process of self-illumination, of experiencing non-duality within duality, luminous non-duality within luminous duality, huh? This drama of spaciousness and radiance. And actually been doing this a little differently than we typically do things. Been doing it in sort of a step-by-step manner. And I've been doing more of a demonstration drama, huh, than we typically do. It has a positive side and a negative side. It could really be boring. Because you're kind of like, you could fall into a voyeuristic state, which is not really fun. On the other hand, I find it really useful to hear people articulating the unfolding experience that's arising out of a state of union and articulating their experience of the light, of luminosity, and its different configurations, huh? And so how it's worked out by circumstance. I've been doing about 3 weeks now, I think 4 weeks, maybe 3 weeks. Each person has articulated different experiences, but it's covered a really wonderful range of different articulations. This light. And we're going to continue doing that, and we're more, as we go through this, we're going to be including other people more and more and more. Like each time we bring 1 or 2 people in, because our confidence and our assumption is if any of us can do it, we all can do it. That is a really useful assumption, huh? And a working way. So if some of us are doing this, we all can do it. And then as people are experiencing the state of awareness, the state of radiance embodied, and they're articulating it, and we're in the field with them, we will have that experience non-conceptually opening up within us, and the conceptualization, the articulation of it will help us know what's taking place. Say yes if you follow that. Yes. And that's what we're doing. That's why we really think 2 awarenesses are better than 1. And it's so great today with Mr. Ma this morning, and it's just so superb. And he's becoming more and more explicit in his as a qigong of the light, okay? And that you don't hear often. Yan Qin was also a qigong master of the light, huh? But for the most part, and as Mr. Ma is articulating it very, very, very clearly, without much words, and to experience that light and the practice of embodiment from that point of view is really, really useful, because as we've been experiencing, as we experience the light of awareness, the light of the Qigong state, if you wish, it infuses our mind, infuses our bodies, huh? And that is really great. So I would urge you to consider coming to that. And yet next week is there are 2 books here. And one book is this really fantastic book, Rainbow Body and Resurrection by Francis Tissot. And it's a fantastic book on spaciousness and the light in Dzogchen, and how that this is really a configuration that has taken place in many traditions during the same time. Abhinagunta writing in the same century, and the Shaivistic masters, and some of the particular Christian masters, where this whole experience of the light was emerging in Asia. It's a brilliant book, and I think it's going to come here in October, because we're switching every so often. Those who've been here for 100 years, some of us have done. Every so often we have people come for a while, and then we switch. Right? We then bring in. And so we're making a switch. We're going to have more scholars come into this phase, okay? And we've had thousands of empowerments and all this stuff, and there's still other empowerments you can get other places. But we're focusing more on some scholars coming in, and I think having Michael Egan come from a psychoanalytic. He's written the book Psychoanalytic Mysticism, among others. He's a really very renowned, he's a great friend, and renowned teacher in New York City at many of the analytic institutes. He's a Winnicottian expert, a Lacanian expert, and he understands the light in his own exquisite way. And then we'll have some others. Our first attempt, when we began here many years ago, we started to have some scholars coming, but it was a tough beginning. We had, what was the first guy's name? Keith Dowman, who's a fantastic translator, but a wild character from Nepal. And he wouldn't leave. Okay, time to close. He was quite a character. Brilliant. but his own, a man that had his own tone. I like him. And then another person came. Huh? Tantava, yes. Tandava guy, yes, he came. Odige, another character. A serious character. And then there's another one who came who was a Tantra master who and also translated for the Dalai Lama, and he gave us that Ejidati, the protector. What was his name? Anybody remember? Oh, great. It'll come back one day. So we had a good time here. But we're going to start having scholars again. I think we're have more base to do this. He's a priest, and he actually was in Washington. Correspondence. He was in Washington from 2003 to 2006. So we're sorry we missed each other, but he's going to come. And then also, there's another great book, which it's been translated a while by Alan Wallace, but it's just come out in paperback, and it's Dzogchen Lingpa's Visions of the Great Perfection, the Heart of the Great Perfection, and it's a couple of texts, but it also has his Vajra Tantra, and it's really quite great. Dzogchen Lingpa is very readable. Alan Wallace is a fantastic translator in his commentaries. And there's a section called The Essence of Clear Meaning, which is on the light in this text. And it's only $13, okay? And this is only $14. So if you want to read something, it's really useful to hear this, not just from moi, okay? So I urge you to get these two books here. And yes, please.
Rudy, could I ask you to read those books and have somebody copy the information and put them on the listserv?
Sure, that'd be great. That'd be great. Thanks. Also, we're ending the year, right? We ended the year. We start in September or so, and we end officially like in June, right? And then we make a switch. So up to this point, we went in. I think next week's the last Wednesday in June, right? Is that correct? So then it'll be our last official thing. We'll get out the little CEU credits, and then in July, you can come and pay by day, right? You don't have that monthly commitment, and you can come in July and August, and then and how we typically do it after every week in July. I say how many people will be here next week, and if we have enough people, we'll do it. If we not enough people, we won't do it. Okay, so we'll finish up our sequence this year, and then as we go into July, we can come weekly. Okay. On July 15th, Peter's going to come here, and he's going to ask him to come talk. We've been really focusing on the light and the mutual holding of the light and what happens as we invoke the light, okay? He's going to talk on cosmology and astrology as the articulation of the light, and that's why Vedic astrology is Jyotish, the light, basically the light. So the astrology is looking at the narrative of the light that's unfolding in our life and what that means to understand it as light and the light of the different energies and planets. Okay, we'll do that. Hope everybody's been having a good time. I really urge you to read some of these books, and it's really great also if you could practice with each other on your own, right? Two awarenesses are better than one, and to really to experience that is cool. Oh, also we'll have this Saturday will be our last because we're going into a new sequence now. Our last Saturday morning Dakini day, where we're going to be doing the videos playing Lama Torchins, and we'll stop there. We'll start that again in September. Okay, and. Like this past week, we only had about 3 people. If we had a lot of people, I would continue doing it. But I will still at times do practice on Saturdays. But with all the coming and going, I'm going to do it this way. Rather than making a big announcement, I'm going to use Twitter, of all things, okay? And I'll send a note. Say if I was going to do it this Wednesday, I would say, I'm doing it, okay? And then we always do the Troba Nagmo and another practice. So it's more that on Saturday. and it'd be at the same time. But also, like if you want, if you sign up for Twitter, I can tell you for sure whether it's coming or going, without sending this announcement out to everybody, which is a pain in everybody's, including mine. You know, it's on the website. Just press the little button. You press the little button, and we'll do it that way. That's our infomercials, and I really urge you to consider doing. And where we're going to be focusing still on this light, this mutual transmission of the light, this invocation of the light. Last week we also invoked the light in terms of that experience in the present, from timeless awareness, entering the presence of events that were past, present, even future. We experienced that experience of the light being brought to a situation. And then also, we then felt the power of the Vajrakalaya also, that power, that energy of dissolving destructive structures. And that's liberating, because we would like the feeling of liberating not only people who are suffering, but those who are intending suffering. You with me? And if you believe all this, I don't think it really means too much, like believing anything. Belief and doubt tend to go hand in hand. They just walk hand in hand. Just like hope and hopelessness walk hand in hand. Belief and doubt, hand in hand. Hope and hopelessness, hand in hand. Shifting. I don't know where I'm running into. I'm getting distracted, but for that, I spent a year in Belgium, Louvain, Belgium, studying phenomenology. It was really quite wonderful. Wednesday nights, Paul Ricoeur would be speaking. So cool, and things like that. And studied hope and hopelessness at the Institute of Time Perspective. And I've always liked the mystery of time, and time and timelessness. I didn't know about timelessness then, but we studied hope and hopelessness. And we studied hopeless. It was so interesting because we studied hope in terms of a paradigm of possibility and valuation. Good thing's going to happen. Wow, hope. Wow, a bad thing's not going to happen. Wow, hope. Wow, a good thing's not going to happen. Wow, a bad thing is happening. And had a little scale, and people would put their various aspirations, and we'd rate it. And then we start testing for field dependence and field independence. Field dependence means I'm really dependent on what's happening here and now, in the moment. Field independence means I have some space between these events. And we did it by that time Wittgen's work on field dependence, field independence. And you put people in chairs, and you turn the chair up this way, and they make some judgment, and you could see whether they're using their own internal locus as the source, or they were dependent on the field, right? Everybody follow that? It's really very wonderful. And then we gave people experiences coming in, and gave some people experiences of failure. Wrong, wrong, wrong. And then feeling right, right, right. Bouncing back and forth. And sure enough, people's hope and hopelessness, which had nothing to do with the event, absolutely nothing whatsoever to do with their event, their aspirations of hope and hopelessness changed on the momentariness of the event if they were field dependent. You with me? The field independent group, which is a much more rarer group, wrong, wrong, right, right, they had their own tone, they had their own tune, irrespective of the momentary influence on hope and hopelessness. So having said that, I'm trying to think of any announcements to make. Yeah, there are a number of great teachings at Lama Norla's. They're going to have the Molam, which is a lot of the Kagyu tradition will be there. And there's a great text of the Kagyu tradition. It's really a very central text, distinguishing appearance from pure being. And that text is being taught. That is really a fantastic text. You with me? It is really, and a great, great teacher whose name I cannot pronounce very young teacher, one of these real young masters that are rising, because all the old ones are all dying. He'll be teaching that. So to have that experience is really, to me, a worthwhile experience. There are also going to be other experiences, like at the Vajrayana Foundation in California, where Lama Tarchin's places. They'll be doing Tromanagmo teachings by Sandro, and then also Vajrakalaya teachings, and also the Padmasambhava Center in New York. They'll be doing Vajrakalaya teachings, among others. And those are two really great centers. So, and I'll be making these announcements also, so you guys can follow that. Maybe that's enough announcements for today. Can't think of anything else. So here we are. And the Nyingma tradition, as you know, they make the distinction between mind and awareness. Sems and Semde. And that's a really useful distinction, huh? And as in Western psychology, Winnicott makes that distinction between being in mind, or what do you call the ego, thinking, feeling, sensation, memory, and all the rest, and transitional space, which is actually awareness, right? And then in Gestalt therapy, right? Any Gestalt therapists here? Oh, a few. There's one. is also shifting out of the analytic mind into the experiential state. You with me? And so this, and yet when we make that shift, like we've been working and making that shift here with each other, working in this work we've been doing, we want to shift into awareness. But there's a shift into awareness of the experience, like mindfulness. You're mindful of sensations, you're mindful of experience. But there's a second reduction we do. And that second reduction is when you become aware of awareness. And as you become aware of awareness, that opens up, to use another language, psyche. I'm rambling a little bit, but I'd like you to follow this. You enter psyche. When you enter psyche, you're not in your mind alone anymore. Psyche is not our mind, thinking, feeling, sensation, memory. Psyche is this dimension of knowingness that is knowing being itself, right? So we're going really from psychology to ontology. And when you go from psychology to ontology, and you hear the various descriptions that people are describing, you can say, is this entertainment? Is this psychology? Is this making a difference in a person's life? Is this phantasmagoria? Or are they perceiving this dimension that is in the ontological realm, the realm of being itself? Now, a person who suffered a lot about this was Carl Jung, because Carl Jung was torn between being a psychologist and an ontologist, torn between being a psychoanalyst or being a person who was an archetypical mystic. Say yes if you follow what I'm talking about. And so so when you've been hearing these descriptions, you hear Anna's description, and you hear, I don't see that, I'm lost now because you're not sitting, I'm stuck in the geometry. And Skip's description, and Jan's description, her daughter's description, your description, who else was making some description? Your description, right? Is descriptions that are not strictly psychological. Now, death is an ontological moment. Just a second. But it does have psychological implications, right? And so they are related. Yes, please.
What's the definition of ontology?
Ontology has to do with being itself, with the beingness of being itself, with being. You with me? And so as we start, or as Rollo May, and most of the existential psychotherapists, and R.D. Laing, Winnicott, they start realizing that the base of relatedness is ultimately ontology. It is interpersonal. It is relational. But through that relational experience, a sense of ontological basis arises, which is the basis of being itself. And we begin to experience the beingness of being in ourself and the beingness of being in each other. That is quite a base for psychology to take place. You with me? But when that base is not there, which it often is not there, then psychology can play a role up to a point. But actually, it is through relational life itself that the sense of being awakens in all of us. We're going to see this in maternal studies and things like that. Say yes if this makes some sense to you. You follow me? And and so a lot of psychology is doesn't bother about this whatsoever. Are you with me? And doesn't mean it's not useful for many things. So in light of this, also at some point we're going to, as we go through this summer, I think I'm going to go into describing certain forms of depression. Are you with me? I'm going to look at analytic depression and what's called introjective depression, two of our favorites for all of us. One has to do with abandonment issues, relatedness issues, and the other, the introjective, is our superego and criticalness, self-criticalness, self-perfection, introjected, one form of depression, and the other form has to do with abandonment issues and things like that. Relatedness and self-definition it's looking at. You with me? Raise your hands if you understand this a little bit. So we're going to go into that as and go into this a little bit more, why this is useful at times for people if they can do it, because not everybody can do this, right? And if you're in mind alone and you're in concrete mind alone, whether it's from a psychological point of view or a study of hopelessness point of view or Longchenpa writes the problem of the concrete mind, it'll be very hard for you to experience the bigness of being. Is this okay with everybody? We're all together right now somewhere. So let's do back to our little experiential thing. Here we are. Let's, you guys extend to me and I'll extend to you, and then I'm going to extend to our friends on the internet and the people. I've been following the same people because I wanted to have a little bit. Usually we do little spots, right? But we've been working with the same people for 3 weeks now and seeing what's emerging for them. You follow this frame? Say yes if you will, because then I'll go further. Okay. So let's focus. I'm going to focus with Anna, first of all, who we began this with in California. So I'm going to extend to her, and she is going to extend to me. And then we're all extending and entering the field together. I have to focus in for a minute. Hi, Anna. How you doing? I don't know if Anna's here. Anna? I think she's in meditation. Yeah, it's Anna, yeah.
Sure, I hear you.
Can you hear me? Can you guys hear me? Okay, great. Welcome. Hi. So, did you hear that frame a little bit? Framing what we're doing, where we're at?
Yeah, I heard the beginning. It just froze for
Okay,
30 seconds now.
great. So we're connecting again.
Yes.
So part of this is actually being connected. It's like connected voice, inside to inside. And favorite question, what's it like for you right now? Just in this moment, if you don't mind.
So as I connect with you, it's a little bit like velvety smooth fluidity entering my body.
Great. So we're just going to hang out with that subtle union, inside to inside. And would it be okay with you, but speaking from the place of experience as it arises, what has been arising for you as you've been experiencing this little drama for the past 3 sessions? And even those little notes you sent me was really helpful. Because
So the theme of this, I guess, month or 3 weeks for me has been intense integration of opposites. And last time felt like I was working after the last Wednesday, what arose, I guess, within the wider field with the shooting in Orlando and extending to that, I had extreme anxiety, feeling like destructive,
Mm-hmm.
kind of separated from the creative force in me. So when I worked with you and through the field, I could, for maybe the first time in my life, experience quite clearly that destructive energy arising in me, and it was terrifying because I knew it could destroy. And for a while, it was not connected to any creativity or light in me, and that was terrifying. And then as I worked with you in the field, I was aware that it felt like you held both poles, and it was almost like I could enter a place where that could be evoked in me, the possibility of the creative and the destructive coming together. So that destructive raw was arising up through my lower body, and through holding the field with you, it met in the heart, and it opened up into beingness and duality in a very more soft and dark and containing and open way that I think I've ever felt.
Yes. That is a really useful description for all of us because we can experience psychology. Our psychology is a manifestation of these great forces, of the manifestation of primordial ground awareness itself, to use these metaphors, and it's manifesting up through some Bogakaya realm, which can be symbolized and personified through deities. You with me? Dojidrolo, Vajrakalaya, intense, and also beneficent, and integrating these energies that we integrate preconceptually, pre-verbally, within awareness itself, within the beingness of our own being itself. And then that can be psychologized. And it can also go the other way too. But we're seeing this interplay of psychology. And Heidi's doing a very interesting study right now on space and gender, you with me? On a social constructive point of view. And that's a totally valid way of looking what happens. But there's this other dimension that is psyche itself, that as we work with awareness and we work with duality within non-duality, that we're dealing with. Everybody following this description? That was an ontological description that influenced psychology. It was not primarily, it had an effect on psychology. Psychology is an extension of that, but the source was beyond conscious mind alone. Say yes if you follow that. The true unconscious is primordial awareness in its manifestations. Great. We're going to pause for a minute here. Understanding and awareness go together. Without understanding, and without having some understanding of what is happening may not be sustained by you. And that's why Dorje Rinpoche would always say how important understanding is in this. Not everybody agrees with that, but this is all opinions anyway. Let's stay with this. And Carol, welcome. We enter our little connexione. And what's happening for you right now?
I'm feeling the
Oh, well, I'm feeling that sense of duality and non-duality being um, just very present, and that's been happening for me more and more throughout the week. I'm also taking a class in astrology, and so the symbol for the sun, which is the circle with the dot in the middle, seems really to fit this experience of there being a center and there being this totality at the same time. And so that's what is so much more easy for me to experience now, is that sense of plugging into that expansive totality.
That's been the word you've been using so often, is the totalness of it,
Yeah.
the wholeness of it, the completeness of it.
So if I'm at home in the woods, I feel the totality of that space opening out, and the center, and and sometimes there's no, that just bleeds out into no sense of physicality anyway.
Infinity, huh? Now, I'm hearing her description. There's a psychological correspondingness, but this description of the wholeness, the totality, and how it bleeds out to where there's no physicalness, huh? As an expression of the great expanse. The Dharmakaya is the great expanse, to use that phrase, and this great expanse. And she's experiencing the great expanse, and that great expanse, that groundless ground, is support in the in being itself. It is being itself that is manifesting in her right now. And it influences her mind. It is not simply a function of a good cognition.
Yeah, because there's a real shift in yeah, it's not a cognition. It's a shift in the light and in the focus. It's not a pinpointed focus, it's a diffused focus.
It's like a formless focus.
Okay? Because the light shifts, it becomes the light. As the light shifts, it's well, it isn't that sense of definition. It is that sense of again, that's sort of spaciousness and interconnectedness and expansive, expansiveness. I don't.
You're doing great. Just stay with it a little bit longer. Now, she's been describing her experience, and her words, for the most part, are arising from the place of experience. That is why she can describe it so accurately. And now we're going to bring her mind in just a little bit, just a tiny bit of your mind without leaving, just a teeny bit. What's it like to think of yourself this way? And this is an intellectual question. This is a representational question. Without losing, without popping, what's it like to think of yourself this way, dear?
I love it.
That is a useful thought to have. It is useful at a certain point to have some self-definition of what's taking place. that representation has to do with our personal identity, and the representation itself at a certain point is really attuned and useful, and is it of itself an expression of what's happening. Yeah, something else.
The other thing that I've been aware of recently is that my intuition seems so much more available and in tune with like so and my I'm much more also emotionally present in that kind of expanse.
See, something is right there. That intuition is gnosis. That is direct perception.
Right.
So it's another, all this is total, it's another language. But her gnosis, she's in gnosis. She's in direct knowingness. And that direct knowingness is attuned not only to the form, but to that which is beyond the form. Because when we enter gnosis, I'm running a little bit, there's gnosis of awareness and there's gnosis of mind, as the great masters would describe. And so this is really useful because one level takes us beyond the form into the being itself, but also there's more gnosis into what's going on within the form simultaneously.
Yeah.
The simultaneous experience. And I forget his name, the great 11th century master would describe that a lot. Take the mic back from you. Great, thank you guys. And our friend from Italy, is here. Welcome, good to see you. So we're going to pause again. Now, when I ask Skip to articulate his experience, as he's experienced, he described it twice. And first he was describing, we went through the Kundalini description, or that sublimatory thing, and then he described something else last week. So let's see where Skip is at. And Skip, would you mind turning towards me a little bit, because I can feel you better that way, and you can feel me. Thank you so much. We're going to make our little connection. And I find, having made that connection with Anna, then it was easy with Carol, and then it's easy with Skip. So one thing builds upon another. One follows after another. Hey, welcome. How you doing?
Really, really well.
Cool. You look good.
And the immediate experience I was having was it's actually something I've never quite experienced before. Multiple layers of luminance or scintillation as my being.
That's really well said. Lumen, scintillations, and my being. Scintillate. Jung actually called things scintillators. It's actually a word, scintillate.
And it's like layers and layers and layers of it.
What's it like to be in this layered life, this layered dimension, this dimension of layeredness?
It's very intense. It's the normal orientations aren't as present.
Yes. So there is a dissolving of our normal orientation, which can arise a certain disorientedness or undeterminedness. And what's that like to be embodying this way? You don't mind me using that word.
It is that simultaneous, but it's psychologically a little disorienting, and at the level of the luminance. I don't know how to describe this.
Great, there's a beautiful word, lumens, yes.
It's unbound, free, incredibly expansive in outward and inward both.
Outward and inward, unbound, incredibly free. And so at this point we can feel the locus shifting from psychology to being more this cosmology. So in the great traditions, the real power of these traditions is shifting from psychology, the base being psychology, historicalness, you with me, to ontology, to the beingness of being itself, to psyche becomes the base. And that actually is self-liberation.
And I've been having this experience, still hard to articulate. So there's been a lot of earth and fire, and it's been shifting to more a fluid.
So the first time you worked, it was very earth element. And you, is that okay? And the sexual element, it's an element, it's a sexual element, is earth and fire, right?
And
you worked with that for all of us as you.
and as it's shifting to this more fluid,
Mm-hmm.
there have been periods where like the channels have not been big enough. I don't know what to call it.
Channels were not expanded enough, yes, because the light itself and the movement of spaciousness and light, it is the movement of spaciousness and light where the channels themselves become vast. Initially the channels are like, sort of like, they're a little gross, they're like something, but eventually the channels are no longer something anymore. They are vast openness with conduitness. Is that okay?
Yeah, because there is a flow in the conduitness. So, I mean, it's movement.
Do you feel the flow between me and you and Juliet?
Yes.
What's it like? Because the relational life, it opens the channels also, right?
Mm-hmm.
And in sometimes the most direct ways.
And so that relational flow. How to put this is a whole body flow.
It is a whole body flow, yeah.
And within that flow, then there's an increased intensity at the heart.
Yes. Increased intensity in heart as source.
And increased intensity at the base in the sexual center.
Yes, the ground level opening.
And so it's like it's the whole, and then there's just these intensities. I don't know how to describe them.
It's a creative process, this unfolding and this opening and embodiment of the light, and and in a certain way, there's a strange phrase, the light consumes us. It doesn't mean much, but there's a certain way what was dense flesh experientially, slowly but surely becomes consumed in more light. So certain people listen to the chode. I always have my own ideas, but usually they're borrowed from somebody else also. But the chode as a concrete thing where you're dismantling your body and things like, yeah, the chode where you hear it as a dismantling of the body this way and that way. If you like that sort of thing and you have some of those tendencies, I think it's great, okay? But for me, the chode practice is a practice of light, okay? And the chode practice is not a cutting off, fragmentation, disembowelment at all. I don't like that sort of thing. I find it has some negative effects to it, okay? But rather the chode as an experience of dissolving or being consumed by the light is much more powerful for me. Say yes if you understand that. And that form of the chode, I find, and how it's presented that way, is really, really, for me, a more positive experience. Because part of in whatever tradition you're in, whether it's Vedic or Hinduism or Buddhism or Islamism or whatever the ism is, you can take a negative approach, are you with me? And it actually works. Or you can take a positive approach and it actually works also. But the positive approach, or the positive of light, is much more assimilatable to most of us in this century. That's a prejudice. How are you doing right now? As you find yourself being consumed by your light.
So I wouldn't have had that language before. There's a certain, for want of a better word, chode experience of obsessive orientations.
Now we're going to pause with this because this part that you articulated now for all of us has to be dissolved. Our obsession. Anybody have that other than me? Obsessional orientation. So would you mind describing the dissolving of the obsessional orientation? And Freud, in his own genius, said most religion is an obsessive compulsive thing. I actually buy all this, you know? Yes, please. Unless you free yourself, they should do it.
So it's been this sort of dual experience. The least interesting is the psychological.
Mm-hmm.
But there's also been this experience of I don't know how you put it, a pre-existent orientation.
Let's sit with that. As you feel the pre-existent orientation, is that in collaboration with the obsessional thing, or is it beyond the obsessional thing? And this is a real question. I'm not so sure whether the obsessional is a conceptual orientation of the non-conceptual, or is the orientation beyond the obsessional. I'm not complicating this too for you at this moment.
Interesting. I can't remember your question, but I'll just speak to my experience. Sorry.
Keep going.
So that didn't register at all.
Good. Yes.
So it's almost like an energy form that I'm drawn to,
Okay. Pulled to. Yeah.
pulled to. And then that influences the psychology, but it's not the mind. It's pre-existent. I don't know.
It's pre-existent. Let's stay with the pre-existentness. You with me? The non-conceptual pre-existence. And actually Merleau-Ponty actually speaks about non-conceptual pre-existence stuff. Let's hang out with that for a moment. What's it like as you focus with that and your mind simultaneously? Can you do both at the same time?
Part of that obsessive is to go straight to mind. So this will be a challenge. I don't know if it's the transgenerational field,
Mm-hmm.
and it's an energy that's in that pre-existed
For you.
this existence.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if that's any different than the Alaic trace,
Mm-hmm.
but it's like there's this constellation there's been a pull towards me for a long time.
Can you go into that a bit more in the felt sense? As you hold it in awareness. And I'm trying to hold it with you.
It provides an orientation, a sense of security. If I go into my mind, that's all there is.
Mm-hmm.
But if I can hold it with all this this flow,
Yes, and the ground.
and the simultaneous earth, fire, and the fluidity,
Mm-hmm.
then that the familiar pull is also limiting.
Say that again now.
That familiar pull, it attracts me to it.
Yes.
But if I'm not in my mind, then it limits the possibilities. It's limiting. I don't know how else to put it.
The pull is limiting.
It's a manifestation of the field that also hides the field.
Now that is useful to say that. How appearances or manifestations of the field, but the very phenomena of appearance can hide the field. That is a powerful truth for all of us. Appearances can hide the field, and appearances are the very manifestation of the field.
And it feels like it's in the cells and the molecules of I was going a little disembodied, so I wanted to come back.
You have to be back into your body.
And it's like it's in the cells and the molecules of the body in some pre-existent way. It's hard to describe.
It feels like the obsessional mind is no longer there, and now you're holding this in awareness itself. And you're holding it in awareness, and it's becoming clearer and clearer to you. You with me? Not conceptually, but experientially, becoming more clear in its manifestation. The felt sense of it. Is that okay?
Mm-hmm.
Would it be okay with you to continue working with this particular manifestation and each day for a while and seeing how it manifests? But it feels there's a differentiation between the obsessional thing and this powerful organizer, this form. Is that okay?
Yes. Yeah.
I don't know if we can go any further today.
I'm sort of where I'm at, and it's disorienting and it's liberating, and I don't think I can go
Yes. It's
much
both
more.
disorienting and liberating at the same time. What's it like to feel that spot of disorientation and liberation simultaneous?
Very peculiar when you ask to feel it.
Uh-huh.
It's ecstatic. it's really like just wild.
Hanging out with that experience of the ecstatic manifestation. Thank you so much. And it's hot. So we're hanging out. Hope everybody's still here. I'm gonna check into some other old friends here. Jan, how you doing over there? Other side of the room?
Extremely well.
And what's been happening with your experience right now? How are you right now? And I'll pass the mic in a moment. How are you doing right now?
I love that word that Anna used, velvety.
Velvety.
Velvety, more, and there's a blending together of love and in a grounded way.
In a grounded way. And would you mind describing just right now how would you be articulating what's been unfolding for you over the past 3 little sessions? I would pass the mic to you.
One thing that was very helpful this morning was to hear Carol talking about. Now I can't even remember. But intuition, because it really fits with my experience lately. Has been having very strong intuition in the moment and being more likely to share it than ever before.
So it's like you're feeling more support in articulating the reality of your experience.
Yes, and there's a certain sense of trusting that if it's arising in the moment, then there's a meaning to that, and then sharing it. And that definitely is shifting how I'm working, and I'm also feeling just a lot more love for everyone that I'm working with and everyone in general. And from that is like before I might have had an intuition and just sort of held on to it to see if it was going to be useful later, and now I'm more likely to just go ahead and share it.
Can you feel us over here right now?
Yes.
What's it like to feel us over here with that directness?
It adds a dimension of, in your article about Heidegger, and it adds a dimension of glimmer. There's like a scintillating kind of glimmer that I sense and when I tune into the whole group.
What's it like to feel the glimmer coming through, that glimmering coming through all these beings, all these human beings, whatever their life, it's good glimmering, shining.
As I feel that in everyone, I also feel it more in myself, and it's almost like drinking it in or breathing it in, and it's just filling me up.
Do you like experiencing your own awareness?
Yes.
Spaciousness and radiance?
Yes. Yes.
What does this provide you?
Well, a lot more. I like the phrase that Skip used, I think it was last week, about being in love with life. There's much more of that sense of just being excited about it, enjoying it, and it also is. It's interesting because it's like the superego is dissolved in a certain kind of way, where meditation and chanting and all of that is just something I feel drawn to and that I love, and that I want to immerse myself in that versus feeling a should about having discipline about it, and that's been a wonderful shift.
Thank you. And could you pass the mic to your daughter, Muriel?
Yes.
And Muriel, I think you spoke last week,
Mm-hmm.
was it? And what's your experience? What are you experiencing now?
It's so hard to describe. It keeps changing. A little while ago when you were talking to Anna and Carol, I was really in the field, but I felt like, what it felt like was that it wasn't even a process anymore, it was just existence. And that I felt so integrated that I felt like my body wasn't, there wasn't any kind of shell, but that, I was sort of just so expansive. But then also still me in my body. Hmm. Right. Yeah, and then but then it keeps building and building. So then I started. This happens has been happening a lot lately, where I have like involuntary movement, but instead of ticking back and forth, I started going in half moons, like to the left and then to the right, and then which eventually turned into counterclockwise circles, which I always think is interesting. I just let it happen because I'm like, ooh, um, and.
What's it like to have this unfolding of awareness, this movement of awareness, this moving embodiment that's moving you around spontaneously?
I just try to go with, I think, kind of like what mom was saying, or maybe not, but just about being more spontaneous with it instead of trying to hold on to it. Even at a certain moment, I thought, I don't need to try to make this happen. I just need to let it happen. And so then I sort of leaned into you, and I felt sort of a melting. Or I guess what I should say is, when Skip was talking, I felt like all of a sudden I felt like I was on fire, kind of like in my heart, and then also it went through my arms into my hands, and I felt like the top of my head kind of like not blew off, but like kind of disappeared, and then my third eye was it like started feeling uncomfortable, but yeah. So that was really intense. But then when I leaned into you, I felt like this like cooling off, sort of like a very physical sense of like it took the fire away and I sort of like melted into it. It was very soothing and but cooler. And I don't know, I guess it's just been a bit of a journey, keeps changing. And then when my mom, yeah,
It's like you're getting a lot of
right. It does feel like that, like a mini course meal. Yeah.
Paleos, they serve that sort of thing.
Yeah.
No, there's one real question with this. What's it to feel that expansiveness without fusion? What's it like for you to feel
It,
expansive without fusion?
it's so liberating. I've gone through my whole life just being so in my head and so anxious all the time. And I just feeling integrated, feeling expansive it's just so, it's really liberating. And I love it. I mean, and I love that I can tune into it when I want to, and I can sort of, the more that I do this, the better it gets, and it makes me want to do it all the time. So, mm-hmm. Yeah.
So glad you're here.
Thank
I'm going
you.
to pass the microphone back over this way. And I think Nancy was another speaker. Everybody's enjoying this, and we'll be shifting for other people to be talking. Let's see. Now we go to Nancy. First, Nancy, how are you doing right now today? And what's it like for you to be in this field of awareness? And can you feel a little connection to me right now? What's that like as you connect with me and I'm connecting with you in this rather direct manner? Yes, yes. There's both form and no form simultaneously. We're going to sit with that just for a little while, if that's okay with you. And what's it like for you to be experiencing this dimension of yourself with such confidence and knowingness, without doubt? It's complete.
scintilla or I see it with my eyes closed and I see it with my eyes open.
What's it like to see the rays? What's it like to be seeing rays?
Hmm. Yeah, and the rays, I see it when I even see headlights. I'm seeing a whole spectrum now of the light, and I see I see the spectrum of color. Like maybe it was always there. I mean, it is always there, but I'm just noticing. What's it like? It's like awakening. Yeah.
What's it like to feel the awakening of the radiance?
To put words, it's gnosis for me. It's like, yeah, I knew this as a child.
I knew this. I knew this as a child. And that's a real statement, huh?
Yep.
I knew this as a child.
And they thought I was crazy.
Now it's really open again for you.
Yeah.
And what's it like to feel your chest right now, your heart?
Just alive, pulsing.
And can you feel me and Juliet from your heart right now? Just from that place, if that's okay with you.
No, it's great for me, yes. I feel a triangle.
Do the triangle.
Yeah. I feel like the sweet soul. You know, I can like pick up who you are almost. You know, there's like a
You can actually feel wholeness.
coolness.
Isn't that cool to feel wholeness with me? Just a sense of wholeness. Awareness is wholeness, you know?
Mm.
Not a personality, but wholeness. That wholeness there. What's it like for you to feel wholeness in this way?
It's love.
It's pure.
It's just pure that in bringing that lately more and more into my work. I just sit with the couples and I just sit there and it's like, I love this couple, even though others might have, but whatever's going on, it's just I just sit there and it's like it's just suddenly I really know what's going on and I extend
Yes.
to them and I can feel it through my back into the
So that
space.
center's open now. It's coming through you. Really cool. I once had a supervisor named Edith Weigert.
Mhm.
Edith Weigert was that time she was a very old object relation person, you know. But she wrote a book called The Courage to Love in psychotherapy. She's a courageous person, and she was really great about this. And many of the classical analysts, of course, were turning over because love was present in psychotherapy, right? As an actuality, and not just some pretend transference that love is a vehicle. And she was a great person. She also had the joy of having a dance with Carl Jung. Carl Jung keeps coming up today for some reason. And she will speak about this. She's a great, great person. I'm going to pass the mic back. I hope everybody's experiencing what everybody's describing today. So now with Juliet, did anybody else speak as we went through this little thing? So we're finishing a little. See, so we're going to focus with Juliet right now. Spoke last week. And Juliet, would you mind leaning into me a little bit more, please? And what happens as we lean into each other?
The luminosity and radiance just expands out into infinity and totally boundless. And that sense of oneness without losing singularity. It's just magnificent sense of compassion and love, and it expands out into the entire room, the entire group, and then ultimately beyond.
And Now, what's interesting, you and I like each other, and yet this is not on the same order as like.
No,
It's its own thing, isn't it?
it's non-personal.
But it's personal, at least.
It's personal in a certain way, and yet there's a non-personal aspect of it, which makes it. And the word that comes to mind is universal, but that's not quite it. It's completely encompassing.
It is completely encompassing. Is an exquisite phrase. That's it. So we're going to do this a little bit more. We'll lean into each other. So at this moment, I am now becoming a better person. Okay? And what's it like for you?
The silence of being just, it becomes as encompassing. It's just, but at the same time, and this is always the thing that I find so remarkable, is within the silence, within the stillness, there's the movement of the vortexes, which is really radiance, luminosity, and it's movement, and yet it's not movement. There's not really, it's very hard to speak to because it's this coexistence of sort of opposites, and yet the unity of it, the oneness of it, is indivisible.
Yes. Now she's helping us all right now. She's really helping us. And Lama Torchen, in his magnificent descriptions of Durjam Lingpa's Song of Realizations, describes this, the movement of the Dharmakaya. You guys heard him? Who are the movement of the Dharmakaya? Moving, huh? Movement of the Dharmakaya. And yet, the movement of the Dharmakaya and its complete stillness is indivisible. Or as Namke Norbo, movement and stillness, indivisible. And this is really, to have that experience and knowing it is really useful. Because in the history of the philosophy of this unfolding, Dharmakaya, in order to be the absolute, had no change. And yet to add change in appearance would be something else than the manifestation of the Dharmakaya. So, and with the Gaudapada Tantra, there's this arising, right? And also started off with the Taura Tantra, but it's most explicit in the Gaudapada Tantra. What Juliet is describing there, this movement and stillness of ground awareness, manifesting everything and anything in us. And you may think this is just a philosophical quandary, but all philosophical quandaries are the unfolding of knowingness over time, it seems to me. And knowledge unfolds over time. And knowledge that is really useful in one time may not be as useful at another time. And you guys are now reading, he goes, those papers that are hermeneutical papers, right? I know you guys are just reading them hour after hour. But how to read a text, one is how to read a text, and the second is, what is that? On St. Augustine, huh? And because hermeneutics has to do not only with the unfolding of knowledge in our own self, and sometimes it is a return to where we began. Sometimes as something emerges over centuries later, it goes right back to the early centuries in this eternal circle. But this experience of movement and stillness simultaneously is really freeing. Everybody follow what I'm saying right now? we're going to sit back for a few minutes. Now, what should we're ending this little thing. Has everybody had a chance to talk who was part of our little experiment over time? Okay, Kathy, yes. Hi. You have to. Okay. So, what's happening for you? And we spoke one time. One time you described your experience, right?
I did. It was a few weeks ago.
And what's been happening for you?
Whether I was experiencing the beingness of being.
Yes, the beingness of being. Huh?
I think I lied. I think I actually did experience the beingness of being.
What's it like for you to, because that word is always so mysterious, isn't it? The beingness of being. What's it like to experience being? What's it like to experience being?
It's like I'm going back to the word, but it is the essence of being, and it's as if there are boundaries and no boundaries, and it's a presentness within time, past and present, past and future.
When you're experiencing that, what happens to your mind?
It, I can right now, well, it's still there.
It's there.
Not like these little, like words are coming from it.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like an energy center rather than a talking head.
Yes. Actually, it is an energy center. It's a configuration of energy in our embodiment, but it's not simply a talking head. Mens Semde. Are you been having fun?
Yes.
So what I'm going to do now, we could either do a group, or I think I'd like to pass the mic around and have everybody articulate their experience a little bit, okay? What's been happening for them, but not a long commentary, just what you've experienced, if anything. You with me? As we've been experiencing with this two awarenesses and the transmission, the mutual transmission of awareness, the light. So we're going to pass it. I'm going to skip the guys who've talked already, and we're going to go to over there to Kate. Karen first.
Simultaneously, I'm experiencing Jaloux, the opening.
Jaloux, yeah.
This opening into more and more radiant light while becoming more deeply embodied and tasting the mixing of the flavors of the bliss within and the bliss all around me with more love.
That's so well described for all of us, huh? Jaloux. Have we run out of is it Jeff, could you put a new disc in there, if you don't mind? That little disc, just eject it. Put it. Yeah, we're just going to eject it.
Press record after that?
No, we're just going to put. We'll put it in later and we'll finalize it later.
Okay.
But I kept people sharing, so we'll just eject that sucker, put it out there, another one in, and then it'll take it in there. I hope, and then we'll press record, and then we'll press play. Let it get loaded up first, and then it'll say a little phrase.
Yep. Give them contents reading. Blank disc.
Yeah, great, fantastic.
Press record now.
Yeah, press record, and then play. Great, because
And then play.
then play. Yes, play. We'll do it because we learn through experience. Because we're in the field, and that which is being said is being communicated to us. Yes. Kate.
I'm more love is really I'm deeply experiencing, and I'm aware today of deep, just a lot of radiance through my heart. So just that vast light radiance. And I was actually really experiencing this with Qigong this morning. The heart essence and the Dantian. So that experience of feeling, and this is similar, I think, to what I've was experiencing and articulating last week, and what's been happening for me is this stability in the sort of sense of the both the Dantian and the heart so connected. And as you were speaking about the Dorje Drolo and the Vajrakalaya, these practices that are allowing me to both hold the vastness and the intensity of the energies, and the beauty and the expanse from the heart.
But add a phrase, holding the expansive and intensity of the energy without getting sick and burning up.
Without getting sick and burning up. Thank you so much for saying that. Yeah, and I think my in love with love, which is, as I was sharing on Saturday, and what I've been feeling is, as someone who has experienced the just physical illness and pain, and to be in this state and experience that intensity and feel my capacity to hold it and be with it without burning up. So it's just, thank you for saying that.
Great. We'll pass it to Kay, who's been out moving. Big job.
Thank you. I came today completely empty. I never have felt like this before, as empty as my house. And looking at when Skip moved, looking at that crystal ball behind him, that's what my body feels like. Like, I've never felt like this, just unplugged from every thought, unplugged from all feelings, unplugged from my physicality, just like an empty crystal shell today. And I thought I was sick feeling. I mean, I feel a little bit nauseous too, and it's like, oh, I feel maybe I shouldn't go. I just need to sleep. And I said, no, I need to fill up. And so in Qigong, I kept wondering, I just feel empty. And I thought I was tired, as I'm kind of worn out. But, whoa, listening to everyone, such a gift today of not filling up with thoughts and feelings, but filling up with the beingness of the moment of each of these people. I felt like I opened my mouth and I just felt like these experiences people have been sharing today are like colors just dropping in and filling up my emptiness.
What if we said, if for some reason Swami Muktananda's words come to my mind, said you should always approach the guru with your mouth open. They sit around. You know? Thank you so much. Huh? Yes, welcome.
I'm experiencing a lot, like everyone's been talking about, and as they talk about it, there's been an evenness, but not just evenness. There's a sense of moving from naming things to where the names don't matter. Not where they're forgotten, but they're joined in a different way, so that this name or that name doesn't make as much difference.
When you say knowingness doesn't depend on the name.
I was reading about the way rivers can come into a sea, and at some point each river loses its personal name and just becomes this sea. And it's like that. It's an evenness where you can go back to the river if you wish, but at some point it doesn't make as much sense going back there. So yeah, and with that comes the sense of view that people have spoken of being able to hold opposites without being bothered by their apparent opposition, which many people have spoken of today. It's easy to hold wisdom and ignorance that way. It's easy to hold mind and vast openness that way. And that has the evenness as well. So.
What she said. It's a remarkably similar experience. I've been experiencing Tantra, which means continuum, the sort of beginningless, unbroken flow that's ornamented with lots of sensations. And part of how I've gotten there is I've developed this little early warning system for egoity and segmentation of myself from other. Whenever I'm feeling a little bit of suffering, the little red flag goes up and says, hey, look, ego's happening right now. I can kind of catch it red-handed and see what it's doing. And then I feel the alternative to it, and I sort of slide into that. That's it.
Of course, the experience keeps evolving and changing, and as each person speaks and as different things are manifesting. On sort of at the beginning. Yeah.
What's your take home today? We're running on short on time.
Yes.
What is your take home? What are you getting for yourself?
The elemental certainty of the manifestation on multiple levels and dimensions that allows light to shine forth.
That's beautifully said. Stay for one moment. What's it like to experience elemental certainty? What's it like to actually experience elemental certainty in your environment?
It allows a different relationship with physicality.
And what is that experience like to feel a different relationship to physicality? What is that like?
That physicality is not fixed, not concrete.
What's it like to actually experience that physicality is not concrete and not
removes some psychological fixation. It also allows that opening of light. Right.
Thank you so much. I'm going to pass the microphone to Evie. Really useful. Howdy.
Hello.
What's happening? What have been happening for you here?
I'm with a lot of sadness today. It sucks.
Ask you a question. You say you're experiencing it. Where are you experiencing it? I don't mean necessarily physical. How is the experiencer of the sadness? What's that like? Being the experiencer of sadness.
It's I have the tears. The tears are actually rolling down my face, and yet it's like there's it's like a sense of release. That's void of shame or guilt.
What's it like to be experiencing the release that's void of shame or guilt? Just that.
Well, it's freeing. It has a sense of it has a sense of like duality and non-duality, and of like a sense of release, of holding, of whatever.
And what is that like, that sense of release, of holding? Do you feel me over here as we're doing this?
I have been feeling everyone, even though I am in this place. It feels supportive. It feels it's like holding multiple sensations or experiences all at once. So it has an intensity and a fluidity at the same time.
And what have you been experiencing these days?
More, I would say, evenness. So even though I have this sadness that's coming up, it's not like I can't be in the world. It's not like a collapsing. It's more just, oh, you're sad today.
It's an experience.
Yeah, and actually I had this really nice, best way I could explain it was there's a Slovakian lifeguard at the pool.
Are they all Slovakian?
Yes, I think they are. They're from somewhere, like, yes. And she's lovely. Her name is, I think, Lupka or Lupta or something like that. And she's darling.
And she said, "How are you doing today?" And I said, "Well, I'm kind of sad today." And she goes, "Oh." She said, "Yes, once you get in the pool, you'll feel better. Just, just allow it to flow. You know, you'll feel better." And then she said, "I was sad yesterday." And and I said, "Oh." And she said, "I felt so much better once I just let it go, you know." And then, then she said, we were talking about, I said, "Well, thank you for sharing this, because not everyone likes to share this kind of stuff." And she said, "Yes, I notice people come to the pool, but they never get in the water."
I want you a question before we end. Do you experience sadness and life as compatible? Completely compatible?
I think I feel them more than I used to. I think I feel that more than I used to. I'm not sure if my mind thinks that.
I may not think that yet.
Yet, I'm not really, like, even as I've been in this place today, I'm not really thinking. I'm not really thinking about anything. I'm just like, I guess I just need to cry and just be here. And that's very difficult for me, I will tell you. That's a very difficult thing for me to do.
Hanging out with you right now. Is that okay? Will you just hang out with us? You don't have to say if you know the content, but do you know what the tears are about, or are the tears just arising? I'm not going to ask you what they're about, but do you know what they're about, or are they just manifesting?
I think there have, I think they're a bit of both. I think, I know they're just arising. The other thing that I'm working on is losing weight. And so letting go of the predisposition to stuff my feelings, or stuff uncomfortableness, or to literally feel a sense of fullness through food, is allowing more room for this to come up. So even as I work with my acupuncturist, he's helping me. He's helping me with it. And how are the emotions? Yeah, they're rolling. Okay, good. You know, so it's a whole, it's that, but then and then there's weird dialogue that I have in my head about everyday things, and then I don't know where that takes me. But I think it's all related. It's all like a big, it's like a constellation of beingness related to physicalness and emotion and the whole thing. Mm-hmm. Relatedness and embodiment.
And our affective states, which are signals of embodiment.
Yes. Affective states are signals of embodiment. I feel like I can feel more, more coming in.
stay with that. We're all with you. What's it like to feel more coming in at this place? More coming inness?
Well, I think it's letting go of it's letting go of an old belief. An old belief that I'm not lovable.
What's it like right now to actually do it with all this, with this piece?
It's both hard it's both hard and also it sort of feels like something's like shifting in my head.
There's a mantra that's coming to my mind, and it's a mantra that actually has to do with releasing, okay? Om Ahum Swaha. And this is Om Ahum, and I'm going to ask, because we definitely talked about this mantra. Do you mind singing the mantra? Om Ahum Swaha. And we're going to focus on this. She's going to sing it, and you can feel this mantra. We're going to feel also a connection to us here, with me and everybody else. Because Om Ahum Swaha is a powerful mantra that with the Om Ahum you invoke all those dimensions, and Swaha is the releasing point. Is that okay if we keep doing this for a little bit? Sure. We got time. So, Om Ahum Swaha. Swaha. And sometimes it's Swaha into the fire, and sometimes it's just Swaha into the space, and sometimes it's Swaha into the sea, and sometimes it's Swaha into the earth element. So we're going to pass you the mic. We're all going to focus. We're going to do this for 5 minutes, okay, for all of us. Om Ahum Swaha. And this particular form of the mantra was supposedly given to Gabi Dorje's mom, okay? And because was she was in this, the Dakini that passed it to her was she was giving the embodiment of the gift of pure awareness, which was Gabi Dorje with me, but it is really the symbol of all of this, including Mary, is the symbol of the incarnation of pure awareness, right? It's okay we're doing this? Swaha. Om Ahum Swaha. Beautiful, thank you. Hi, Michael. Good to see you, Michael. How you doing? Are you in Milano? Milano? Did you enjoy today? I'm so you're welcome to participate. We love seeing you, you know? And the picture's good too. It's a good picture. So far away. Did you feel the energy today a little bit? Some energy? No, we have our own little language, but that's okay.